left Port Angeles in early June, excited to be out of the yard and on our first adventure in our new boat. We didn't make it too far from the harbor before making a quick pit stop to catch a couple ice-cold ankle slappers. It's really nothing better than finding waves with no one around, even if they're only half a foot tall. We got back on the road motoring across the Strait of Juan de Fuca, with only 30 miles between us and the San Juan Islands. JD was tinkering with a leaky foot pump for our sink. Anyone who's ever owned a boat before knows there's always something to fix. About halfway through our crossing, the wind came up and the water got a little bit chunky. We were pleased with how the boat performed in these conditions and surprised by how comfortable and stable it still felt. Whoa! We entered the islands through Cattle Pass and were immediately in perfectly smooth water with a nice breeze still pushing us along.
This is what we made. We made one of these.
We inflated the dinghy and picked up our friend from her cabin on Lopez, then headed straight for the northernmost outer islands, Paydos, Susha, and Mesha, where there was no shortage of beautiful secluded anchorages.
That's a pretty place.
Careful where you drop the hook though, with up to 15-foot tide swings. If you leave your boat in the wrong place, you may find yourself high and dry. We spent the next few days exploring as many nooks and crannies as we could, going for hikes, goofing around, and of course putting the costume bin to use. After taking Robin home, we met up with John from the boatyard to go shrimping. We quickly caught our limit and then headed over to Deer Harbor where we enjoyed an all-you-can-eat shrimp feast on John's boat.
Nice that you could join the party.
Once I was so full I could hardly move, we decided it was a good time to test out one of the boards John gave us behind his dinghy. We said goodbye to John and coincidentally sailed over to John's Island. This was the first time we got to fly our spinnaker. She's a real beaut. That evening when we got to the anchorage, JD decided he was feeling a bit sporty and attempted to dive off the mast. I unfortunately had the camera on the wrong setting. The spreader shifted as he jumped, causing him to lose his trajectory, and he smashed his leg on the side of the boat on the way down. Not knowing there was an ER in Friday Harbor only 10 miles away, we motored 30 miles to Bellingham. At one point we were beating directly into 25 knots of wind with our little 8 horsepower outboard. Needless to say, it took all night. When we finally got there, we got him in a dock cart and wheeled him up to the street to catch a taxi to the hospital. Turned out he broke his fibula, and he ended up deciding to fly to San Diego to stay with family for the healing process. I returned to San Juan's, where I also got some good family time in. Both my parents and my sister joined me for a week on the boat in celebration of my 32nd trip around the sun. We had a blast playing music, towing behind the dinghy, and hiding behind trees.
I mean, in case you were wondering what
My dad made me this hand-painted sign, which became a very important piece of equipment to meet new friends and fend off the loneliness now that JD was gone. I took them to some of the tiny little gunk holes that JD, Robin, and I had squeezed into previously. It sure is amazing some of the spots you get to anchor when you only draw 2 feet. The week passed quickly, and unfortunately it was time for my family to go home. Next, I was blessed with a visit from Sean and Chase Kelly, the son and grandson of Mike Kelly, who built this boat 17 years ago. They were happy to see his beautiful creation back in the water, and I was thrilled to hear stories about the legendary man who built the boat that is making our dreams come true.
Hey, Sue taught us.
The next group of visitors were certainly the rowdiest yet. Orcas Island has one of the greatest skate parks in Washington, and a couple of my buddies took the ferry out to skate the park and join me on the boat for a couple of days. I thought I'd be safe after opting out of joining them at the park, but in the end, I found a way to lose some blood anyway.
It's the happiest day of my life. You too, buddy.
Down by the river on that Sioux. What's that you say? I guess you're right. It's nothing to me.
A lot of the footage from this period is mysteriously missing. That is why you're seeing so many phone clips in this episode. I could go on and on about all the funny things that happened this summer, but I will spare you all the low quality imagery. I will say that I had almost too much fun with all the friends that came and kept me company, but I was also happy when JD returned in August and we could get back to focusing on our mission. To sail around the world searching for uncrowded waves.
My boy's back, y'all.
Stay tuned for our next episode where we sail all the way down the west coast to the Channel Islands.
What the fuck? That time this one.